In this video, I want to talk about control room monitoring and also the solo mode for CR monitoring that we saw before but we didn't really talk about. So I'm going to show how that works. Now in the back of the board there's CR outputs. That's where you would connect your control room monitors, usually powered near field monitors are connected up there. And if you have a broadcast booth or other fixed installs where you have monitors near the board, that's what you would use. Now of course if you're in a studio recording situation, you'd almost always have control room monitors hooked up to those as well. So here's how the soloing normally works. When we're in the latch mode, we have to flip to the solo bus over here in order to hear anything that's soloed. We also control the control room output level with the monitor knob right here. It says monitor, but it might as well say control room right here because it's connected to the CR output. Now the headphones will get the exact same signal, it's just it's controlled here on a different knob, and that controls the jack on the front of the board. In this video we've got the audio hooked up to the CR outputs, so this should control it. Now first of all I'm going to play back a little bit of the mix and leave the monitor enabled. We have to have something routed here. If we have it set up like this with nothing routed to the control room out, then you won't hear any audio at all. If we engage main, then the main mix from the faders will go to the control room outputs. It doesn't go through the main fader, however, so it's independent of the main fader. This actually works like a secondary main fader for your control room. So I'll just play back and show you how those features work. Alright, well that's simple enough. Now if we want to hear something soloed, we have to have solo enabled. If we have both enabled, it's a little confusing because, well, you'd hear the main mix and the solo mix and there's really no point. So normally you would switch back and forth, and I showed you before you do this with a two-finger trick. So if we have solo enabled here, now anything that we solo will hear, provided that it's turned up here with the solo knob. This knob controls the overall level of the solo bus. With this down, you won't hear anything when you solo something. With it up, you'll hear what's soloed. So let's solo a few things. Alright, so that's kind of how it works. Now that two-finger trick gets old after a while. It works fine, but it would be better if when you soloed something it would just choose the solo bus and turn the main off. Well, there's a way to do that. In the system menu, we have it set to latch mode, which is our default, but there's two other modes. There's the radio mode, which I'll tell you about in the next video, and CR, which means it's the control room mode. So let's set it to control room mode, and now what happens is when we have something soloed, it automatically chooses the solo bus, and when you don't, it goes to the main bus. So I'll play back a little bit and just show you. This will automatically switch. And you can solo multiple things at the same time. I really like this mode. Normally I actually use the board with this on. Certainly if you're in a studio environment, but even for live sound it works really well. Now one thing about this mode that you might find a little surprising is that if you're monitoring through the tape bus, that would be for playing back music, or if you're monitoring through the digital input, if you solo something, watch what happens. We solo it, it goes to the solo bus, but when you turn that solo off, it flips back to the main bus. So it kind of steals your routing. If you have tape on and you solo, here we're going to solo the bass, it goes to solo. When we unsolo, it goes back to main. The real point of the control room mode is to make it flip back and forth automatically between main and solo. So you can temporarily override it, but as soon as you start soloing stuff, that comes back. Now, one other very useful thing you can do is solo the auxiliary buses. So the auxiliary output, like this one right here, is set up for monitors. So I can actually solo that and then listen to what an artist is hearing on stage. If I turn that off, it goes back to the main. I'm not even connected to the output right now of aux1 for the monitors, but because I can hit solo, I can route it into the solo bus. So I'm going to play back and just show you how that works. Alright, so if the artist says, I want to hear less of that guitar, that little guitar riff, I want to hear less of that in my monitors, then you can solo this and then adjust the mix. So I'll demonstrate that. We can take that out entirely if we want, and we could actually hear that we've done it. Now, that's through the control room monitors. You would probably do that with the headphone bus. Now, one other thing I want to show you about solo in general is when you solo a bunch of things, you can solo a wide variety of things on this board. Once you've done it and you want to clear all those solos, you can hold down the tap button, which is the null button, and hit any of them, and it clears all the solos. So that's just a little trick to be aware of. It's a tap clear for the solo bus. So that's an explanation of how control room monitoring works, as well as the CR solo mode that's in the system menu. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.